This samurai is so strong that even Whitebeard shook in his boots and ordered his entire crew to retreat because they were in danger. The Moby Dick was wrecked on the ground because Whitebeard's pirates had just climbed up Wano's waterfall. They wanted to know why there was a sea and an island on top of the waterfall. These bald-headed fools went to see what was going on and rushed to tell the crew they had a problem. They said the pirate ship appeared at Itachi port, and then Oden showed up, all hyped and ready to go, zooming to the port like a kid in a candy store. Whitebeard's girl says they're going to grab supplies, and Marco wanted to join, but she wouldn't let him because he's just a rookie. So he goes to ask Whitebeard, and Daddy says, "Do whatever you want." Meanwhile, Oden was more excited than a kid in a toy store, and the bald guy is freaking out that they let him go there. Kanjuro says he probably just went there to drive the pirates away, right? But Iso says, of course not. Everyone knows Oden's dream. He finds the pirate ship and says he's been waiting for this moment for a long time. He summons some ominous aura, and Whitebeard says they're in deep trouble. That's how you know Oden is a beast, right? Even the Emperor of the Seas was shook and told his crew to pull back because there's some monster coming. And Oden shows up, grinning, saying, "Welcome, welcome!" And he's pumped that someone finally made it to the top of the waterfall. The samurai pulls out his sword, and Edward Newgate starts prepping his sword, Mugi-Ro, one of the 12 supreme blades. Oden leaps into action, and they lock eyes like they're staring straight into each other's soul. Then Oden screams that he's been waiting for pirates this whole time. The two swords clash, and the insane power they're throwing around starts blasting everything away. That's what happens when you put two monsters in a fight, huh? Oden's laughing because Whitebeard managed to block his sword and says, "Old man, you're amazing." Marco's completely pissed, asking how dare Whitebeard talk like that about his dad. The Kimon crew finally arrives, but Daimo tells them not to interfere, and Newgate's grinning because that fool was underestimating it, so he told him to come at him. The two go at it with insane attacks. One of those sword slashes to the neck, and you're done. Whitebeard starts fighting seriously when he realizes this guy's not all there, so the big guy goes straight for him and says, "My name is Kazuki Oden, and I don't know who this musclehead calling you Big Beard is, but I really want to join your ship." Newgate's not understanding a thing. Oden uses some crazy hockey that's spilling out of his body, and Edward's already getting ready to throw a destructive punch. The samurai hits him with a paradise cascade, and once again, it's a battle of insane power. But this kid needs to learn some respect for his elders, right? He takes a punch to the cheek that breaks the air and sends Oden flying way beyond. Any regular guy would have been checking into the afterlife after that. But this dude was so strong, he's still standing, and not even close to done. Can't even blame him for losing this fight because the guy's been waiting his whole life for pirates to fight, and the first one he meets is Whitebeard himself. The old man says he's annoying and tells him to get out of his way, but Oden smiles, and the bald guy asks, "Who do you think you're talking to?" Just pointing a sword at him is asking to be executed. Big Beard asks, "Are you a daimo?" And Iso tells those bastards to get out of his country now. Marco's ready to throw hands too, and the tension is real. But Oden says he wants to explore the world because it's his dream. He tells them all to stop and leave right now, but he has zero clout because the Redbanes said he can't do that. But he tells them to go climb a mountain because he's tired of this closed-off land and wants to see the free world. He kneels down, begging the old man to take him with him, and the bald guy tells him to lift his head. For the love of God. The heir says he just tried to send the captain to the afterlife, and now he's begging? Kimon's getting desperate and tells those lazy pirates to get out of the country already. But Whitebeard says he would love to, but the Moby Dick was destroyed on the way here, and they can't leave. Oden says, "That's a tragedy. Then let's fix it right now." And that's exactly what they were gonna do. The kid acts like a hyperactive child when he gets what he wants. So all the pirates started working to fix the ship. The little Nekomamushi and Inuarashi come running to call them to eat. And now Marco is living his best life, not caring if they're friends or enemies. The two tough guys were eating like there's no tomorrow. They were devouring Oden's special, Master Oden style. Oden says it wouldn't be Oden if it wasn't boiling. Jesus, how much Oden in one cent? He completely lost it after trying wine for the first time, saying there's so much in the world he doesn't know. He asks to join them on the ship again, but Whitebeard says he's not the kind of guy who serves anyone. If a selfish guy like him joins the crew, what's going to happen to the rest of the crew? He learned that the hard way on his previous ship and tells Oden to go alone. Oden says if he could do that, he would have gone already. He tried over 20 times but couldn't because he doesn't know how to sail, so he might as well stay here. Kimon arrives, saying the laws of Wano forbid anyone from leaving the country, especially a daimyo of the Kuri clan. It would be unforgivable if he broke the law. Oden tells him not to talk about this to him, and they think exactly the same thing because Oden doesn't want to take them with him. But Oden says he doesn't care about the country's laws, and Newgate says he still has a lot of work to do. He's an indispensable person to the country of Wano. Oden begs him again, but the samurai's already set on taking him away. Poor guy can't even leave the country. Looks like he lives in North Korea now. The ship was almost fixed, and the pirates were about to leave at any moment. Over at the port, Marco was cracking up because those two strays thought there were only 5 islands in the world, but there were over 10 or 20 million. He says adventures are so much fun. Oden sticks to Whitebeard like glue and says he's not letting go until he's taken along. But the big guy slams his head to the ground. 2 weeks later, Whitebeard's pirates finally fixed the Moby Dick and were ready to sail. Oden sneaks out in the middle of the night, but Iso asks where he thinks he's going. Oden says, "A daimyo has the right to go to the bathroom whenever he wants, right?" He acts like he's just going for a pee and then gives a sly grin. They feel bad for Oden, but had to leave at night. Whitebay says he'd be really useful with all that strength, and Marco says his dad also liked him, but he pretended not to hear it in front of everyone. He says even if his dad liked him, it would be like kidnapping royalty, just gonna bring trouble. But at least they left him the treasure chest as thanks for the food and firewood. But the little troublemaker finally showed up, chained himself to the ship's mast, and said he knew they were leaving at night. He was already climbing aboard like Spider-Man, but Iso was 3 steps ahead and ran after him. The two fall into the water, and Newgate calls him an idiot. Iso tells him to go back because he's going to be the next shogun. Marco says he's too reckless and is about to release the chain from the mast, but Whitebeard tells him to wait and bring the guy who came after him. The pineapple head is already flying toward them, and the captain says now is not the time to worry about others because they're about to fly over the waterfalls. But Marco just grabbed Iso and left Oden to become shark food. Over in Kuri, Kinnaman was freaking out because Master Oden disappeared, and Whitebeard's ship set sail. Kiku was crying because her brother Iso, the cat, and the dog were all missing too. Shutenmaru tells them to search the whole country, but that's gonna be tough, huh? Because by now, Oden was already smashing his head against the rocks in the sea. Iso asks Edward to pull Master Oden up, or he'll drown, and he's the future of Wano. But Newgate says everyone saw Oden reject him multiple times, and even so, he left the country, so now he decides what to do. Iso sinks his head into the ground and begs, but he couldn't take such a dangerous guy and put his family at risk. So, to finally end this, Whitebeard decided to make a challenge. He told Oden that if he could hold on to that chain for 3 days, he could join the crew. But Oden was completely nuts and didn't even mind. He asked if Whitebeard promised, and the big guy says he gave his word. But he picked the wrong guy to challenge, because if it depended on Oden, he'd stay hanging there for a whole year. They passed by giant carp, and the samurai almost got eaten multiple times. They went through icebergs, the sky, and hell itself. But Oden wouldn't let go of that chain for anything, and told Whitebeard to wait because he'd be boarding that ship. After 3 days, he was still there, but looking like a wreck. He got a free facial from all the banging against the hull and drinking seawater. Marco shouts for him to hang in there because there's just 1 hour left. Andre asks if he's cheering for this crazy guy, and Pineapple Head says, "Of course! If he makes it, he'll be one of us." But Oden starts to drown, and the whole crew starts cheering for him, telling him not to give up. Iso is crying his eyes out, saying he'll never forgive Whitebeard for doing this to his master. The big guy doesn't give a damn about him. Iso starts yelling too, and Oden's almost out of strength. Hanging on for 3 days without eating, sleeping, and getting beaten by the sea ain't easy. But he hears a woman in distress telling them not to touch her. This was Amatsuki Tok, and a bunch of lowlifes were chasing her. They say they'll never hurt her, and she knew that, because it was a slave ship, and if they hurt her, her price would drop. She couldn't believe she was tricked by these scumbags, so she pulled out a katana to defend herself. They say she's surrounded by the sea with no way out. So she was about to use her ability to travel to the future to escape when a giant manatee shows up and spits a fish in the face of that jerk. They freak out and run off, thinking it's a sea spirit. Oden says he heard a woman's voice asking for help, but even Tok was scared of that freakish beast. Oden asks if she's hurt, then passes out in front of her, and the episode ends. Man, Oden took a serious beating this episode, but it's clear the guy's a beast, right? Not only did he face off against Whitebeard, take a brutal hit from him, and still walk away, but he also hung on to that chain for 3 days. If you want me to bring the next part of this episode to see if Oden will make it into Whitebeard's crew, just drop a comment here. Whitebeard, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel so we can hit 1 million subs by the end of the year. Also, check out the next video on screen, it's insane. I'm out of here, peace.